I guarantee anyone listening to this, you've never met a person who doesn't believe in conspiracy theories. One, two, a bunch. Everybody has a slew of them, I think, that they all believe in. They might be different. But yet you'll meet people and be like, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't theorize, and I don't believe that, the government's lying to me. But if you really break it down, everybody believes the government's lying to them. Certain institutions are lying to them. People are out for their own interest, and they're willing to do awful things to get them. And that's kind of at the heart of conspiracy theories, is like, what are humans with power capable of doing if they're motivated and they don't have morals?
You know what I'd like to do? I would love to get to a, you can't really affect me level, like Candace Owens. Candace Owens is talking about whatever she wants to.
You can't affect me level as in?
As far as listener base, sorry.
I see.
Yeah. Obviously, they can do the things, right?
Yeah,
they can censor the stuff. You can take stuff down.
Yeah.
You can fire. If she's working, but you can't affect her because of the listener base.
That's because Candace is already she's already been polarizing.
Yeah,
like from the jump, it was you either love her or you hate her.
Right.
The people who love her aren't going anywhere.
And so she's been talking about just diving into Kamala's ancestry or ethnic heritage. And here's the thing: people are upset about that. Because they're like, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is if she's lying, that's a big deal, right? I mean, why would somebody lie about that?
That's the question I have.
Why? If she's lying, why are you lying? All of us, because that's what Donald Trump said. People who hate Donald Trump, but the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump can say something very regular, but by the time it gets to our ears, Satan himself said it. I'm going to say it without Donald Trump's voice, and just listen to how regular it was. Oh, well, I never knew she was black. Every time I heard about her, everything that was surrounding her was her ethnic or her Indian heritage. But now she's black, so it doesn't matter to me either way. But I mean, seems to matter. She doesn't respect her Indian heritage? So I don't know.
Yeah,
that sounds very normal.
Yeah,
but when Donald says it, it's all of a sudden she's black. So, but that's a good segue into this episode today.
Porky the Pig.
That was Porky the Pig. That wasn't bad. Yeah, I'm not a good Donald. It's fine. But today, guys, we're diving deep. We always dabble in tinfoil things, but we brought a brother on who we've been on this podcast a couple times early on. And he and his co-hosts do this for basically a living. They dive into the depths of things that piss people off. Conspiracies. You notice what I didn't say?
Theory.
Conspiracy theories. Everything's a theory until it's proven. They dive into potential conspiracies, looking at fact-based evidence, looking at testimony, eyewitness testimony, reading depositions, all these things they're doing. What were you about to say? Were you about to say
just
something?
Now?
Oh, I thought you were about to say something. You had that face. But so I want to bring PJ on from Conspiracy Pilled, and PJ is going to bring some clarity on Black and Blurred through the lens of potential conspiracies. PJ, what's up, man?
Man, I'm glad to be on, dude. I've been wanting to come on Black and Blurred for a while. Yeah, we haven't done anything together in, I don't know, feel like 2 years. So
yeah, I know. That's exactly
nice to be back, man.
That's exactly right. You know what's interesting? I just listened to an episode maybe last week, and I'll lie to you not. You are the only person, and the guest you had on, or maybe you were a guest on this pod, I can't remember, but you guys were talking about the movie I Come in Peace.
Oh, yeah. So that's my other podcast that I'm just starting. It's called Real Conspiracies, REEL, like movie reel.
Okay.
And I started as a segment for Conspiracy Pilled. I was only going to do it once in a while because I've been a movie buff my whole life. I went to school to study film and all that stuff. And now it's a weekly show where we dive into the conspiracy stuff that happens in movies. But yeah, I Come in Peace, 1990s Dolph Lundgren film I'd never even heard of until my friend Namrock asked me if I wanted to do an episode on it.
Yeah. So you ever seen, those movies you catch, like, it's a late night. Maybe you fell asleep on the couch and then you wake up at 2 a.m. Sometimes that's a very bad thing. But then sometimes there's some random movie on and you end up watching it.
Yeah.
I Come in Peace was that for me. I watched it and I loved it. I mean, this was like, I don't even know, probably like maybe 93 or something like that. I shouldn't have been watching it. But yeah, I saw that movie and I loved it. And I told our older cousin, we grew up in a duplex. I told him about it. And he said he saw it too the same night. And you got that connection. People seen something. But you guys, you weren't just talking about some retro movie from the past. You were talking about what it was cryptically messaging throughout it. What were you guys discussing about that movie?
Yeah, that movie's crazy. Because on the surface, it's just this real, action film. It's got all the tropes. It's literally every buddy cop, 80s action film trope. But if you are paying attention, it becomes really clear, and it might be the most explicit. Can I say? I don't know if you guys censor this. Yeah, some people don't like when I say that on their podcast. But it's the most explicit reference to in a movie I've seen outside of like Death Becomes Her.
Now, for those of our listeners who do just enjoy the non-tinfoil parts of Black and Blurred, explain to people what you mean.
So adrenaline is a real drug, and it does come from adrenalized blood. They actually studied this in Canada in the 1950s, and they found out that it had mescaline-like properties. So if you've seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, it's the drug that Johnny Depp gets, and they say it's literally harvested from adrenal glands that they took out of a girl that they killed. So like this is a thing that's been talked about in movies. It's a real drug. It really has these properties, and there's a lot of theories that people in Hollywood, people who are super rich and can just get whatever they want and have no morals, are partaking in this type of drug. So whenever I see it referenced in a movie, it's always interesting to me that it's like they're constantly kind of saying it, and we know it exists, and we know that people have used it, but then it's all QAnon adjacent conspiracy nonsense.
That's right. It is
real
though.
My first, I think what was my first aha moment? I think it might have been a reference to either what's the movie?
Is it Death Becomes Her?
No, it's more modern. The Three Witches.
Oh, Hocus Pocus.
Oh, Hocus Pocus. Yeah.
Where they're trapping children to become younger. Also, Rapunzel. Just that story in general. This woman who is just like, she needs this young girl to stay young.
This goes back a long ways. I mean, Elizabeth Bathory. People in power hundreds of years ago were killing children and bathing their blood, thinking it would keep them young. So this whole thing goes back a long, long ways.
Now, there's another. I didn't see it. What?
PJ was. I don't want you to lose your train of thought. He was saying before you asked him what a drink was.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. We were just talking about Death or
just talking about,
I Come in Peace.
Yes. Okay.
About the movie. But there's another movie, because I mean things got a little bit more explicit as of late, but I didn't see this movie, and I'm trying to think why, because I typically would have seen it just to be able to know what Satan's talking about, but
right.
But I can't remember it. I don't remember it.
If you remember the plot, I might be able to help you out on it.
I think. Wait, was there like a Shining follow-up? Relatively recently?
Yes, and that one was very what it was called, I actually didn't see that one either, but I did watch a whole breakdown on what the movie was about.
That's what I watched. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we dove right into some things.
Right into the deep end.
In Tarantino style, let's back up and let's meet PJ. PJ, who are you? And how did you end up with Conspiracy Pilled, you and your co-host?
Yeah, man, it's a long story. I mean, you guys kind of know a little bit of it because you guys have been on a different podcast I've done in the past, but I've been a truck driver for a long time. Like I said, I studied film in college, and I've just done a lot of different jobs and kind of had a hard time finding what I wanted to do. I was a musician on the road doing all that stuff. I got married and left that life behind. I joined the military. I just couldn't find what I wanted to do, but I knew when my son was born, I found podcasting, and I was like, okay, I love this. I love this concept. And my son's turning 8 this week. And around the time that he was born, I started getting into conspiracy podcasts because I just grew up. My family were not that family that didn't talk politics and religion at dinner. We talked politics, we talked religion, we talked conspiracy theories. Like there's just, we went into everything, right? So like all that stuff that everybody treats as taboo and like they don't want to talk about. I just grew up talking about that stuff as if it was normal. I don't have qualms about it. And I was listening to conspiracy podcasts 8 years ago and I was like, man, none of these are good. Like I'm not saying there aren't good ones now. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of friends who do this.
I know exactly what you mean.
But 8 years ago, there was just nothing good. And even when I found good ones, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, people are right on certain things, but they're not coming at this with the right mindset, the right perspective. And I mean, I know you guys know that I come at it from a Christian perspective. And I think that light, I have a good friend that his visualization of this, I love to repeat. So, but he says, if you're diving into the rabbit hole, what everybody's not doing is not taking light with them. And if you bring the light of Christ with you into that rabbit hole, it's not like you're just reaching around and grabbing whatever works. You actually can find truth. So I want to find truth in these spaces. Anyway, long story short, I've been podcasting for a long time. I did a conspiracy podcast originally. It worked really well, but my co-host and me had very different belief systems, and that didn't work out. Did a bunch of other stuff, and I met Abby 2 years ago doing a different podcast, and I told her, I'm like, I miss conspiracy podcasting. I want to get back into it. She calls me the next day and says, well, why don't we just do it? Why don't we just start a conspiracy podcast? So within a month, I mean, I just met her. Within a month, we started Conspiracy Pilled. It started September of 2022. We've been going just over 2 years. Now I'm doing Real Conspiracies, and I'm basically doing it full time now. So
nice.
Yeah.
Now, how you might have just explained this when you brought up Real Conspiracies earlier, but how is that distinguished from Conspiracy Pilled?
So Conspiracy Pilled is the format basically is that every other Wednesday, either I or Abby will dive into a topic. So it's either her diving and presenting it, and I'm giving my opinions and going back and forth and asking questions, or vice versa. And we cover everything. I mean, we cover conspiracy topics, we cover the supernatural, the paranormal, all kinds of stuff. But with Real Conspiracies, it's very specifically, I bring on a guest, we watch a movie, sometimes it's a video game, and we talk about the symbolism that is in the movie. So we just break it down from beginning to end.
That is a clever podcast title, sir.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Real Conspiracies. Man, that's gold.
Yeah.
That is gold. I love that. I love that. So, okay, what do you think is the biggest hang up for people regarding conspiracies?
I mean, I think you kind of talked about it earlier. I loved your opening where you said it's not theories, it's conspiracy. I mean, that's the thing is we get into stuff like MK Ultra and Operation Mockingbird and stuff like that, which it's not even right to call them theories. They're just proven, documented, historical fact, right? Yeah. And we do that stuff too. But sorry, what was your question? I was circling back to
people's hang up.
Their hang up, I think, is that they are afraid of the term. I think they're still afraid of the term conspiracy theory because I guarantee anyone listening to this, you've never met a person who doesn't believe in conspiracy theories. One, two, a bunch. Everybody has a slew of them, I think, that they all believe in. They might be different. But yet you'll meet people and be like, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't theorize, and I don't believe that the government's lying to me. But if you really break it down, everybody believes the government's lying to them. Certain institutions are lying to them. People are out for their own interest, and they're willing to do awful things to get them. And that's kind of at the heart of conspiracy theories. Is like what are humans with power capable of doing if they're motivated and they don't have morals? And I think the second part to that question is that there's kind of two belief structures. That there's the Christian belief structure, which is that we're fallen humans and hopelessly lost. What is it in Jeremiah? I think it says the heart of the human heart is hopelessly dark and deceitful. Yeah. There's that view, right? And that makes it easier to understand how people can do the things that they can do that we've witnessed. And then the other version, which is people are basically good, we're always getting better, we're progressing. And if you have that mindset, you think that people are basically good, it's hard to look at someone who doesn't have the same moral values that you do and question how Epstein Island happens, or question how Diddy does the stuff that he does, But if you understand that people are, if you look at yourself and your own motivations and intentions in your heart for like 5 seconds, you're honest with yourself. You're like, oh man, I suck. I want to do awful things. I'm not pure-hearted. I'm not basically good. I need God to be somewhat good, whatever that means. But I think understanding that too is also a barrier for people. So I think it's just people are afraid of being labeled, and people are looking at humanity that, these rosy colored glasses and think people are basically good, so they can't believe the true depths of depravity that was MK Ultra or something.
And do you think that the rose-colored glasses are preventing them from, I guess, even being willing to hear it out, or and it could be is it like a cognitive dissonance thing where the idea of there no longer being rose-colored glasses is too much to bear, so they'd rather just head buried in the sand? Let me just go with what I got. Ignorance is bliss.
I think it's both. I mean, yeah, I feel like we've all probably met someone who you'll prove something to them that they didn't want to see, and they'll accept it. They'll say like, "Oh, the evidence is here. You're right," and then the next day they'll just completely forget about it, or they won't take the lesson. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just like, "Yeah, okay, I learned that MK Ultra is real, and yeah, the government kidnapped and tortured and drugged people on a large scale, but the government's mostly good. People in it are mostly good, and they just kind of like go back to that. I think it terrifies them. Yeah.
What, I don't know if you guys have stumbled across this type of statistic in your kind of research and do your podcasting, but I don't even know how I want to ask this question. What type of, I guess, characteristics culturally have you kind of recognized regarding acceptance or rejection to conspiracy theories? Let me give you an example to kind of contextualize the question. 2020, the vid is here, and you have some deep blue Black Americans. I mean, you cut their heart open and it's going to bleed blue. You're going to have Andrew Jackson, a bunch of KKK masks falling out of that joint. It's deep blue. But when the shot came, they said, Tuskegee experiments. No, I'm not taking that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you get what I'm saying? That's a very intricate thing. Have you recognized any kind of differences culturally in the way people respond to conspiracies, the consistency or lack thereof, or
that? I haven't really fully dove into and documented this, but what you're talking about absolutely exists. I mean, I think you're exactly right with the Tuskegee experiment, specifically in the Black community, made them probably less likely to take the COVID shot than white people. There's probably others. I think a lot of it comes down to political lines too. There's certain things people are willing to believe depending on if they're on the right or the left side of the aisle. That's definitely one. I mean, if you think about it, the whole Russia rigged the elections, like that was acceptable to certain people. But then the idea that, maybe when we have video of someone pulling a ballot box out from underneath the table after everybody left and stuffing ballots in, that couldn't have happened because my guy won. It's like, it's sometimes it's just political, but there's definitely cultural ones. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go into or how much you've gone deep into the whole idea of woke and where it even came from, but that's a Black community thing going back a long time. And I've gotten comments on videos where people are so mad at me of using the modern version of woke. And you don't understand what woke comes from. I'm like, no, I do. It's just I'm not talking about.
We did an episode on that.
We did an episode on that.
So you guys know what I'm talking about.
We know. You go to the barbershop and a dude is in there with burned VHS tapes and telling you that your soap is actually going to be buried in your skin and brainwash you. But that's a different type of woke. But that's what I was originally introduced to. I was introduced to people who just espoused foolishness. What's the movie?
You're talking about what, In Living Color?
In Living Color. But it was a movie. It was their movie. What was the Wayans movie during that time in Living Color? Don't be a menace
too. Yes, thank you.
One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. Like that was the woke guy. He was the woke guy.
That's a great movie too. Yeah.
That was it. Do you remember, I don't know if you saw it, but I happened to stumble across this because I haven't watched SNL probably in 15 years.
That's probably for the best. It's probably for the best.
They have one good skit every 30 episodes.
But there was some years ago. I want to say maybe 6 years ago, and it was Tom Hanks If you know, you know.
Yeah, right.
As a trumper, Tom Hanks was as a trumper on Jeopardy.
Jeopardy, yeah.
Celebrity, yeah,
Keenan.
the Jeopardy one. Yep.
Yeah, and Keenan was, I guess, your prototypical Black American who is, apparently everybody's got pegged because we're a monolith. And so, but what ended up happening was when it came down to like questions around government trust and things like that, they realized they're basically the same person.
That was the most honest SNL skit in the last decade.
It really was.
Yeah,
it really was.
Sure.
It was pretty profound. It was pretty profound. So let's dive into something. What would you say has been the most intriguing thing that you and Abby have been diving into recently?
Oh man, I always hate these questions because I'm always diving into so many things. I'm not even trying to think because like intriguing episodes, like there's certain episodes that stick out in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them are super recent. I mean, for me, I guess the biggest one that I got down the rabbit hole with in the last few months that just really changed the way that I look at other things was all the Operation Mockingbird stuff. Because you've heard of probably Operation Mockingbird, which is the government paying journalists to say certain lines. And like that's just like the surface level of it. And even when you listen to a lot of like the mainstream podcasts, what they'll do is they'll confuse it with Project Mockingbird, which was when they wiretapped 2 journalists. It's like, see, it was just wiretapping. But if you look at the Church Committee, you can, and all the things that came out, 400 plus journalists were absolutely paid by the CIA, all of this stuff, right? And there's a lot of disinformation on it. But I decided to take it further and look into Hollywood and the CIA and their relationship. And I looked into the relationship between CIA and social media and podcasting and all these things that are happening. So like the more that I looked into it, the more I realized, I mean, it even kind of is explaining what's going on with Diddy right now, which is like, there are spheres of influence and the CIA has their fingers in all of them. So like with Epstein, it's like, okay, you've got the politicians, but with Diddy, you've got the music industry. Now people are asking, well, is there a guy in Hollywood that's like those two? Is there a guy in conservative media that's like those two? And those questions kind of stem back from like it was a 3-part episode, probably 6 or 7 hours worth of content just on Mockingbird so far. So for me, that's been like the deepest dive I've done recently. The season before was Tartaria. I don't know if you guys know much about that. And Abby's got her she's always researching other stuff, so we're kind of comparing notes, but
I got you.
Yeah, hers has been a lot of religion and Bible stuff. So
okay.
It did a deep dive on Islam and Mormonism and a couple other things. So, yeah.
Okay. So now what's interesting about what you brought up about Diddy, it's so predictable, first of all, those things, because I forget what had just come out. Maybe it was just the lawsuit.
It was the producer, I think.
Lil Rod.
Yeah. So it was just the lawsuit that we could read through, really. That's all that existed. And we said, what's the next step? Well, the next step is we get a Diddy documentary. And lo and behold,
right.
We got a Diddy actually, before 50, it was TMZ's thing.
TMZ,
I didn't catch the TMZ one. Okay.
Oh, man. It's all like if you use, I guess, I don't know, streaming hardware, anything from a PlayStation, Xbox to a Fire Stick, it's on like your front page. TMZ presents the downfall of Diddy.
Yeah.
It came like 2 weeks after we had aired that episode. Yeah. I'm like, that's typically what happens. It's all the way to the point now where, I see random kind of like docuseries or little movies about people. And I'm thinking, why do they want us to believe this, whatever they're about to tell us?
Yeah, actually, I have a thought on
Epstein, right?
I have a thought on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Well, with Epstein, it was clear, right? With Epstein, it was like, look, the two messages came out of the documentary that was big on Netflix that I think really misled everyone. One is that we caught the only guy who ever did this ever. We can all shut up and go back to, people can feel good, right? We caught the only guy who trafficked children in the history of humanity, right? So it was kind of that. It was like, okay, yes, we caught him. You can feel good. Don't worry about human trafficking. The other one was like so disingenuous, which was there was a scene, and you'd have to watch this to believe how deceptively edited this thing is. But what it does is it's like, here's Epstein's plane and here's the cameras and this is what we know. The only reason for him to have the Lolita Express is to film people engage in sexual acts that he could blackmail them with on the plane. And there's zero other reason for anybody to fly on the plane. Then they say the next line is Bill Clinton flew on the plane 27 times with a quick but But one time Epstein was at Donald Trump's club, and then they leave out the part where Donald Trump kicked him out of the club.
That's right.
So it's just we caught the one guy, and we'll gloss over Clinton and put all the blame on Donald Trump. It was such a bad, poorly edited, piece of propaganda.
Well, I only watched
that HBO.
Oh, go ahead.
Was that HBO's documentary?
No, that was Netflix.
Netflix.
Oh, wow.
I was just about to say that. Like,
yeah.
I checked out and knew it was nothing. Well, because of the expediency of it, the fact that it came out, and two, the production.
Right.
I would 300 billion% watch an Epstein documentary done by you before I did watch one done by anybody in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's coming out.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's Netflix.
Hey, Hollywood's going to do a documentary on Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're investigating ourselves. Don't worry about it, guys.
Internal investigation on Nickelodeon, guys. It was just one guy who run the most well-oiled sex ring ever.
That's a terrible.
Yeah, that's pretty bad to say.
Terrible.
Cut that out of context. That'd be great. Yeah.
But yeah, man. And I guess that's probably more frustrating to me where look, we can dive into, I'm sure you guys dive into partisan implicated conspiracies.
Sure.
However, when it get into Epstein, at least on the surface, obviously we know that. I think that points to a party, Epstein. But when on the surface, if you just hear that this guy you've never heard of before, if you're a common citizen, Jeffrey Epstein is a key component in a super big sex trafficking ring, then what do people have against that possibly being true? Because people will scoff at that before they say, wow, is that possible? Wow, let me look into this. They'll just completely dismiss it. How do you guys deal with that? I mean, do you go straight to the facts or what?
Yeah, I mean, man, I think sometimes it's just pointing out all the times I've done it before, right? All the times that people have dismissed the crazy person. In fact, the Diddy episode we just did was so fascinating. I don't know if you guys ran across the guy Jonathan Oddie, but this guy still, when you listen to his testimony, sounds like a wackadoo. I mean, the guy is insane, right?
You know what I'm talking about? The Trump hotel guy.
Yes, that guy, right?
Yeah.
But if you listen to his 34-minute interrogation by the Secret Service, he said things in 2018 that there's zero way he knew without being who he said he was. And what he said he was a sex slave of Diddy and Cassie, and that he was having to, do things to Cassie while Diddy filmed. And this whole thing, we all know that this happened now, that Diddy was doing that type of stuff, but no one in 2018 knew that.
Yeah.
And then he gets he says that Diddy gave him $5 million. 1 month, he's $2,000 a month carpenter or body trainer is what he was, fitness trainer.
Yeah.
Next month, he buys a $750,000 home.
Yep.
And even the media pointed out, it's like, how does this crazy dude buy a near $1 million home with cash, by the way, right after he's like, yeah, Diddy paid me to shut up. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. But I think it's pointing stuff like that out. What were we just talking about a second ago?
Like people who just by default dismiss things. It's very dismissive.
Oh, Jeff Epstein. Yeah. So that one's interesting too, because there was I don't know if you're familiar with what is it, Top 10 or there's some famous channel on YouTube that does top 10 things, Ranker, Lister, something like that. Okay. And they had a video a few years ago that was the top 10 craziest things Alex Jones ever said. And one of them was that Jeffrey Epstein ran a pedophile island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I showed my friend that video after the Epstein stuff came out. I'm like, yeah, this is the type of stuff that people have been saying is crazy. Yeah. But all you have to do is look at the facts of his 2009 case in Florida. Look at some of this stuff is just well known. But I mean, I don't know if you can really solve for the fact that people don't want to see it. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, I guess, but I think sometimes it's just showing them the repeated behavior. I mean, showing repeated behavior of the CIA, of the government, of the media, of this person sounded crazy, but look, now we're not thinking they're so crazy. Yeah. I think eventually that gets through to people, but again, like the level of self-deception, I don't know if you can solve for it. Like some people just want to be ignorant.
Yeah. Now, I was just about to ask you about that. Like, does it bother you any differently when you come across Christians who at least claim to have a worldview that allows for there to be depraved human beings doing sinful deeds in the dark? yet they respond as if that's just preposterous? Is that more frustrating, or is it still par for the course?
It's way more frustrating when it's from Christians. I mean, there's things that we should just know from reading the Bible. And honestly, like for me, it's two things that bother me with like a lot of mainstream Christianity is that one is we should allow for the fact that we are in a fallen state, that we know that humanity's capable of great things, especially humanity that's rejected God, which is where the vast majority of the mainstream is at right now. Like that's one. And then the other one is just anything with supernatural weirdness always kind of gets to me, because it's like you believe in a God that came down, made himself fully man and fully God, walked on water, healed the sick and the blind, and we've got Ezekiel and we've got all of this, Acts and all these weird things that are happening in the Bible. And yet if you bring up, a miracle or a supernatural thing or the possibility of a werewolf even, it just throws people, they believe that the world is like almost completely secular, yet they believe in a very spiritual concept. Yeah. And that cognitive dissonance still throws me off.
Yeah. Do you still watch movies for entertainment?
It's hard to.
It's
hard to. They have to put out movies that are entertaining for you to watch them for entertainment. I mean, that's one.
It's true. That is one. It was ruined for me in high school. I had a my junior year of high school, I had a socialist atheist who was probably my favorite teacher throughout my entire schooling. Because he taught us to critically think, which is ironic because he doesn't really critically think about it.
He wasn't doing it himself. Yeah.
Yeah. And but when it came to literature and when it came to film, he said that I'm about to do two things to your life, two significant things to your life. One, you are never going to watch film the same. Two, no one's ever going to want to watch a movie with you ever again.
Yeah, that was my favorite high school teacher too, but it was a film class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I find myself because I'm also a cinephile. I like movies, but it's hard because one, they're not good. And once upon a time when good things were happening, to try to shut my brain off, I would try to watch something entertaining, something funny, some type of thriller or something like that. But now it just seems that everything has some type of messaging in it. And I only watch stuff to see what they're talking about, to see what they're trying to reveal and share now. There was a movie I had in mind and I forgot it, but what would you say other than the ones we talked about earlier, I Come in Peace? Is there anything recent that you've watched that says, this is communicating something that's out in the open that people aren't paying attention to?
I mean, the Lego movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, dude. This is funny. To ask your question about ruining movies, I watched the Lego movie again with my family, and I said, I'm going to cover this on on Real Conspiracies. And my wife's like, there's nothing here. I'm like, yes, there is. And I said, I won't ruin the movie if you don't want me to. We get halfway through the movie, she pauses it. She goes, okay, what is it? And I'm like, it's super obvious. You don't see it. And then I laid it out for her and she's like, shut up, you're ruining. But my point, here's my thing. I don't want to ruin movies for people. I still enjoy movies. I still love movies. I love what my friend Thomas, who does Paranoid American, said to me. He's like, look, it's all propaganda, but at least it's enjoyable or entertaining propaganda. Like learn to be entertained and recognize the propaganda. You'll be a happier person. So like that's what I generally do. But yeah, the Lego movie is this super Gnostic tale that makes God the villain in it and all this stuff. And it's incredibly obvious the more that you kind of understand those tropes. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to go into it, but I mean, that is what it is.
Yeah.
I find myself enjoying books way more than movies now though, because I feel like I am with movies. Especially with doing Real Conspiracies, I am looking for the stuff. I'm trying to allow myself to be, enjoy the entertainment and see the propaganda and be a happier person. But I found a new type of book that I am fascinated with now, and it's like the one form of pure entertainment that I found that I'm not looking for the symbols in. I'm not worried about this and that and the other. I'm just enjoying it. It's called Lit RPG. It's just like a Dungeons and Dragons game put into a book, and it's stupid. It's like it's so dumb. Don't get me wrong, but it's just it is just pure entertainment. I'm not
straight up fantasy. Yeah,
it's straight up fantasy. It's straight up entertainment. I'm just enjoying it for what it is because it's the one thing I can do where my brain's not like running in circles. Because that's the thing I have a hard time with is I'm always researching and I'm watching movies and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I have to find something where I can allow my brain to shut off for a while and just not feel like I don't know. Sometimes when we do enough episodes in a week, I feel like my head's on fire from all the trying to keep everything I mean, our episodes are 2 to 3 hours long. They've got, 20 pages of notes, and that takes 20 to 30 hours of research sometimes.
Yeah,
so
man.
it's a lot to have going on up here all the time. So it is nice to find a thing. For me, it's books now, audiobooks. That's how I decompress.
Yeah. It's necessary because even though as people who accept that, hey, the world is the way it is, it's been conquered by Jesus and it will be restored by him. It's still heavy in real time, like in real time. Have you ever found yourself as somebody who's very familiar with things happening in the dark? And then that leads to, I guess, knowledge of potential things happening in the dark. When something like a Diddy comes out, that is what's implied in the Diddy expose is that, hey, this seething sexual deviant world exists in our entertainment and whatever else, and a lot of prominent people exist within this ring. Do you ever feel tempted to like just dedicate kind of 4 hours to, hey, I told y'all?
I want to sometimes, man. I want to sometimes. Yeah, no, I mean, I try to make that balance between here's someone who maybe just didn't know what they didn't know, and here's people who are being ignorant. How do I talk to those people without coming across too harshly? But also sometimes you do have to just be a little bit harsh and be like, come on, like it's obvious, it's been there, you've ignored it. And sometimes that bit of a wake up call, I hate using wake up and woke and anything related to that because it's overdone and overused, but you get what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
It is a little bit of that. I try not to gloat too much. I try to just show people enough facts. And I think sometimes if you're just hitting people with documented fact after fact after fact, and you're making clear connections between them and not just loose, crazy connections that if someone else digs into it, your whole case will fall apart. Like if you actually put in the work, I think it is more convincing. Because I've listened to those shows where it's like, oh, this is a convincing case. And then I spend 5 minutes looking into it and I'm like, oh, this person who did this knew they were lying to you. Yeah. They knew that they were making bad connections. They knew that they were giving half truths. So I try not to do any of that. And sometimes it's not as sexy and fun and conspiratorial sounding as a TikTok makes it sound, but it's truth. And sometimes the truth is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Sometimes it's a little bit nefarious, and sometimes it's a little bit of disinformation from the conspiracy theorists on TikTok and wherever. So you got to kind of truth is the goal. Yeah. It's not okay. Flat Earth is popular right now, therefore I need to make sure I can convince people the Earth is flat because then I'll get more clicks and likes more views. And stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a great example. That's a great example. What would you say are some kind of practical responses you have in everyday life based on your knowledge of conspiracy? So an example is like there are people who know about the malfeasance and nefarious dealings of major corporations and companies. They don't shop there. They don't shop at their subsidiaries. They don't do any of that stuff. Obviously, the most obvious one was in 2020 or 2021 in a day. They had this magnificent shot that would make us all better. And some people are just skeptical where it's like, I'm not taking it. But some people are like, nah, if you know, you know. Don't take that. What are your are some things that you would say, hey, this is the way I kind of see things and subsequently live based off of what I know?
That's a loaded question. No, it's a good question. I'm just trying to think how I want to answer it.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically, I don't know how much you want to get into like, jabs and stuff like that, but I think that's one where it's like, I think that it might be, and I haven't done the super in-depth research on this, but it might be too far to say all things are like what we were given, this mRNA, new untested vaccine. Like that might be too much of a stretch. And I think having to do the research on that makes sense. I am way more skeptical. I mean, we just don't give our kids any at this point because I'm just at the point where I just don't know what to trust in it. I've done enough research where I'm like, I get that there's a difference between like a dead virus that's given so your body learns to fight it. And I get there's a difference between that and mRNA technology, but I also know they put, heavy metals in there and I don't know, man. There's times where it's like you have to really make a judgment call, and I try to give people the most facts I can to make the judgment call. And if I have a very strong opinion and belief on something, I'm not going to hold it back and be like, "Well, make up your own mind." I don't think that's how we were we're supposed to be shepherds either. It's just be like, "Oh, make up your own mind." Like if I know the truth, I'm going to tell people, and it might piss people off, and it might be a little bit offensive or a little bit. I don't know what the word is, but that's not something that I shy away from. But if I don't know, I try to find out. I try to give the best information I can. That one's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm erring on the side of caution personally at this point, because of things like heavy metals. But
even as you were saying that, I think about something where I would say knowledge of the reality of conspiracy. So let's take this, what you were just talking about, that time frame. There might even be some dormant knowledge that we have. So maybe there's some ignorance we might have regarding the shot, but we are familiar with Operation Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And when it came down to me, what I didn't know about the shot, what sent me all the way on the side of caution was the fact that everybody on my TV is telling me to get it.
Yeah. That should be a red flag.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They're telling me that they're going to give me a cheeseburger if I get it.
If they have to bribe you to do something for your health, it's probably not a good
Dr.
thing.
Fauci going door to door just to convince people to get the shot.
Yeah. Some of those responses were hilarious, by the
They
way.
were.
Yeah. Not what they expected.
No. Yeah, if they're pushing it on you that hard, you should be skeptical. I mean, for real. When it's coming down from institutions, from the government that hard, it's like you have to at least question why they're so interested in you doing this. Is it really about public health? And then you just have to use their own logic. I mean, if their logic is you get the thing, you're safe, you can't get it, you can't spread it, which is what they said, then why are they concerned for the people who don't?
Yeah.
Why are they're like, oh, you don't be around me if you haven't gotten it. It's like, but you told me that you were safe, that you couldn't get it, that you couldn't spread it. So like, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
If their logic doesn't hold through, then that should be a red flag.
Yeah. We always point out how the news cycle is just so rapid today. It's like it's hard to keep up with things, but in a more serious note, we don't really understand how it's affecting us, our psyche and our interactions with one another. We're just constantly either passively or actively downloading information, and it's terrible information.
Yeah.
This person lied. This person lied. This person lied. Oh, look, a murder in the streets. This person lied. This person lied. This person lied. Oh, look, a killing in the street, but nobody killed anybody. Yes, they did. More video. And it's like, oh my goodness, what is happening? And so I'm sure that there will be endless content for you guys in doing conspiracy pill, but we can back up just a few weeks and deal with what I think is the most underrated headline of this last long time, few decades.
Right.
It's the dual assassination attempt of President Donald Trump.
How quickly did both of them get memory hold, and how quickly the second one get memory hold, especially?
Oh, the second one never even
didn't even want to talk about it.
Dude, we talked about it less than a week after it happened, and it was already not being talked about anymore. I mean, the people who were covering it, I was going on their Twitter profiles and I was looking through their tweets on it, and I'm like, oh, this is old news to them. This is old news to everybody who said it was a big deal 2 days ago. And I'll just add this because I do want to talk about that, but like one of the things that I'm not afraid to do with our show, because I agree, the whole idea of everything's moving fast, I think it caused us to gloss over things we shouldn't. So sometimes we will wait, do an episode after it's really well researched, but it's already out of the news cycle. It's already not in trending, and we still do it, right? Because I think it's important. I think it's important for people to see it. It's important for people to hear it. And if they push out of the news cycle that fast, it's probably that much more important that you hear and see it. But the we covered the assassination stuff a lot. Yeah.
What were some findings, man? Share with us.
Oh, wow. It was so deep. The first one, I'm already forgetting, Thomas Matthew Crooks, the first one. I just want to ask your guys' opinion. I mean, you think this is just a failure of the Secret Service? There's just a big oopsie. You think it was because I think it's a gap left, right? I think there's a very specific gap left. And what I found is the more I dug into that angle of it, the more it became obvious. You know, like the roof is too slanted, but yet the other sniper's on a much more slanted roof. We can't have a sniper team there, but we do have one underneath him who would have heard him running around on the tin roof. Footage came out later where you could see him running around on the tin roof. He came in 3 hours before with a rangefinder, a ladder. Like people are reporting him 20 minutes before. And the one thing I keep coming back to is people say the big thing that people keep saying is, well, the problem is it's a bureaucracy and they had to have permission to shoot a guy who was pointing a gun at Trump, and that's why they didn't shoot.
That's crap.
I don't believe it, but like let's just say you do. Why didn't they rush him off stage?
Yeah.
I mean, last year, some guy shouted dude in the crowd with a gun, and the Secret Service tackled Trump and got him off the stage. Like, they didn't see a gun. They didn't shoot anybody. But they had a threat of a possible gunman.
Right.
And they covered him and ran him off stage. So if they're looking at this guy through their scope for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it was, and they're not rushing him off the stage. I don't care about the whole narrative of they didn't take the shot because they didn't have approval. Like they left a gap in security and then just watched a guy try to take out Trump. Like, to me, that's inside job stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I could go whatever direction on it because, again, I did
Go
tons of research on
direction.
these.
I mean, you're sharing what you found. I did not dive deep into that assassination attempt. I think I was staying on the surface because I already knew that there were people who were diving deep in it that I'd be able to look into. But the surface was just as plentiful to be able to talk about the fact that, hey, y'all aren't talking about this anymore. You know,
right?
Like, I don't need to get into the weeds of it. We can look at the forest, and it's like somebody's trying to burn down the forest, guys. Here,
right?
We're not talking about this anymore. What is that about?
Well,
and then not only that, you have people who are so numb to the fact that this is not a big deal because it was Trump. This is a big deal because it was a president of the United States and an assassination attempt. We don't have that in our lifetime.
No.
That is not a thing, and it was just glossed over. And also, lastly, and don't forget what you were about to say. Whenever Trump is on stage with an opponent and a microphone, they always bring up as a blatant lie that he is the direct cause of January 6th for not denouncing violence, which he did explicitly. But they still peddle that lie that he didn't, because apparently to them, it's very important that you don't say anything that could be misconstrued as an inference made that violence should be done. And if that is the side that is Trump's opponents, I didn't hear a semblance of a denunciation of violence, a speaking against violence from the opposite side of the aisle in these two assassination attempts.
Well, worse than that, after the second one on MSNBC, and I played this on our show, they asked the question, well, how are we going to tone down the violent rhetoric that's causing this? And she asked the question of her guest, whoever these two people were on MSNBC. And she says, I thought they were going to say the Democrats have been calling for Trump's a Nazi, Trump's literally Hitler, stop him at any and all costs. You know, we'll see violence in the street until we get what we want. Like, we've seen real violent rhetoric coming from the left for a long time around Trump. So that's what I thought the question was going. I was like, wow, good for MSNBC for asking it. And then she goes, do you think that Trump will tone down the violent rhetoric that led to this? I kid you not. She spent 2 minutes going, well, you know, after Trump was shot at the first time, you know, he went out at the RNC and he seemed somber. And then, you know, now he's saying we got to fight for our country and we have to win the election. And that's violent. And they were just literally blaming Trump. And they said other politicians now feel unsafe because of Trump's violent rhetoric. And it's like, Trump's the only one who's been shot at twice. Well, he didn't get shot at the second time, but credible gunman on the golf course, you know, like, two, maybe three, depending on what you think about the car bomb story, maybe three possible assassination attempts.
I don't know about a car bomb story.
Nobody does. Nobody knows about this.
What? Tell us, man. Come on, man. That's why you're here.
Yeah. So Sunday, the 17th, I think, is when Ryan Ruth was found on the golf course, 500 yards away from Trump. Yeah. And by Wednesday, he had a rally. I can't remember what was that. I think it was Philadelphia or something. Doesn't matter. He had a rally. That morning, they are like, hey, we arrested a guy. There was a bomb in a car. This whole story came out. Within an hour, the police said, don't worry, there was no actual bomb. What it was there was a guy who was self-training a bomb-sniffing dog at the Trump rally, and his dog sniffed a bomb, but there's nothing. We arrested him. Nothing has ever come out about this. And I'm not saying it even happened, but like, why do we have a bunch of credible people saying there was a bomb threat? Then the story from the police is there wasn't a bomb threat. There was a self-trained bomb dog sniffing for bombs at Trump's rally. Like, the whole story makes no sense. So at least in my mind, I'm like, we know how much they lied about Thomas Matthew Crooks. We know how much they lied about Ryan Ruth. We know that they glossed over these stories and tried to cover them up and tried to bury them. Like, if there was a bomb threat, would we know? Like, that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, seriously.
So what I have no idea.
Common, what's as far as the what's the word I'm looking for? The main narrative around Crooks. What are some things that people need to know that should be redacted from the main narrative?
Yeah, one of our biggest reels on Instagram right now is about this, where everybody heard right away that he was a right-winger, that he was a gun nut, that he was a Trump supporter, yada, 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 and that he didn't have any social media, he was a loner. And it came out that he did have social media. He had a Discord. That Discord deleted immediately. So If you know the history of school shootings and things like that, we know that all these people seem to either have Reddit or Discord, and sometimes we have proof of someone trying to prime them through Reddit or Discord to do these acts. So Discord deletes it, so we don't know if someone was contacting and priming him to do this. And then it came out that he had a Gab account, so the FBI goes out and they say, well, he had a Gab account, and it was very anti-Biden, it was very anti-immigration. Andrew Torba, the owner of Gab's, like, yeah, no, here's the affidavit or the whatever it is, the legal paperwork from the FBI about getting this account called Epic Microwave that belonged to Crooks. And he's like, I own Gab. I've seen it. It's extremely pro-Biden. It's extremely anti-Trump. There's tons of violent rhetoric. The FBI went out to the American people and lied again that this guy who shot at Trump was pro-Trump somehow, like that whole weird narrative. So that's one of them.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. The Heritage Foundation, which everybody seems to hate right now because of the whole misinformation around Project 2025, they did some investigative research, and they tracked public cell phone data that showed someone working at the FBI was going back and forth between his house, and then not only going back and forth between Washington, D.C. and his house, but going back and forth between his house and the Pennsylvania rally site. So, to me, this guy was being used by someone who could create a gap in the Secret Service. It's like MK Ultra type stuff, really. It's like
I was just about to say, do you think this is an MK Ultra scenario?
I mean, it could be. At very minimum, they found a disturbed kid and they prompted him and pushed him towards this. I mean, I think that's what happens in a lot of these cases. Yeah. You also have to explain some of these other ones, like that shooting in Texas, Uvalde, where this kid, no money, working at Wendy's, buys a $2,500 Daniels Defense rifle.
Sheesh, yeah.
And he's got a Discord that gets deleted and all this stuff. Like, are people priming these things for political advantages? And I think they are.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? We just got a comment.
That's conspiracy theory, by the way, just to differentiate. That's where I'm being a theorist and I'm clear on that, where I'm not showing. But yeah, I think that's my theory on it. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was about to comment. That we right now on our Instagram page, I was just posting how Candace is digging into Kamala Harris's ethnicity per the official report of her blackness, her newfound blackness, which I find to be ridiculous, even if she does have a father from Harlem and a mother from wherever in India. But I'm saying, like, from point number one is that people and politicians are using quote unquote blackness for political gain. This is like a totem. You get to carry it, and therefore you get the slaves is what you get.
It's the hierarchy they created, right?
Slaves that you get in the mentality, and everybody wants in that realm. They want the black people because they're dedicated. They're not going to dig into things. They're not going to question them on things, and you get to maintain that vote. So therefore, we've completely erased the existence of biracial people. Barack Obama is black. His other set of DNA didn't come from anywhere else. Tiger Woods, black, baby. I mean, and so we've talked about that. And I posted a clip from Candace talking about, and it's still theory. Now she's diving into it, but she's finding some things that warrant questions.
Right.
And then she's also finding things where she cannot therefore draw a conclusion, but there are some premises that have shown to be false now. So now it's like, okay, if you are lying about this for this reason, this will be one of the most despicable ploys in political history. And people are on our page basically saying it's so disgusting that they would think that she's lying. It's so disgusting that Candace is asking this question or doing these things. I mean, why do you think people think it's disgusting for us to want to know what's true? Are they conditioned to think that way?
They've been conditioned to think that the truth in and of itself can be offensive. It can be racist. It can be sexist. It can be all of these awful things, that it's better to live with a lie as long as it's a polite lie than a truth that's a harsh truth. And it's so ridiculous to even like think that questioning these types of things is weird, because what don't politicians lie about? What specifically has Kamala Harris or Joe Biden not lied about with their backstory? Kamala Harris made up this whole backstory that was directly ripped off from MLK. I mean, literally word for word. She's like, yeah, I said, my mom said, what do I want when we were at the Freedom March and whatever? And I said, freedom. And it's like, that's directly out of an MLK book about his life.
That is so insulting.
Have you ever heard that one? She
I think I have.
Yeah.
That's the most insulting thing ever.
Joe Biden's changed his backstory a million times. These people just lie about everything.
Yeah,
I mean, her accent alone shows that she doesn't care.
I know.
Yeah. Her and Hillary Clinton are the worst at this. They'll talk one way here. They'll go to Houston or somewhere and they'll talk a completely different way. It's like everybody sees.
Have you seen Candace at it was Kamala at a Latin festival or something like that? And she said, maybe. Oh, you back. Yeah. Why are you talking like that? That's a new one. What?
Hot sauce. Hillary Clinton hot sauce.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Hillary.
Oh my gosh.
I got hot sauce in my bag. Yeah.
I would call her out on that one. Let's see.
They ate it up.
Yeah,
really? Hot sauce? Oh, Hillary.
Right. Just so happens to be a popular Beyonce song.
Yeah. So just happened to be. Yeah.
Good grief.
They're feckless. They just don't care. So the idea that Kamala, who came in being the first Indian American VP, is now the first Black American VP, people should be asking questions.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about the dynamics in our country is that if an Indian person stands up and says, "Hey, this is offensive,"
right?
People gonna look like. So, with a Kamala shirt on. So, what are you talking about? Sit down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the hierarchy they created, though, right? I mean, they have this whole what's the word I'm looking for? This like oppression Olympics that they've got going on. It's this whole Marxist idea of who's the most oppressed, and therefore they have the most say and the most voice. So if you're going for that vote right now, and look, it doesn't look good because Kamala Harris was the least liked VP in American history. Nobody liked her until they were told to like her 5 seconds ago. The Democrats didn't like her until they were told.
They were about to vote for a brain dead man.
Literally,
before they told her.
Can we talk about social conditioning with that for a minute? Because this is insane to me. Do you guys remember the debate between Biden and Trump?
Yeah.
Yep.
And how this is Mockingbird, right? I was in the middle of my Mockingbird research at the time. Halfway through the debate, the media decided that Biden's career was over. And all they did was said, "Hey, Joe Biden has dementia," halfway through his speech. Yeah. And everybody on the left, and I was reading leftist Twitter for hours. It was so great. Everybody's like, "Yeah, we were just saddened to hear this out. And yes, he probably has dementia." And you could feel the relief. You could feel it was palpable. You could cut it with a knife. The relief that people who were lying to themselves and everyone around them because they were told to could finally say a true thing. Yeah. It's such a weird experience that like there's not a single person you've ever met that didn't know somewhere deep down that Biden had dementia. They've just been suppressing it. They all knew this guy wasn't mentally fit. They all knew he couldn't remember his wife's name and if his wife was his sister and all this stuff. Everybody knew it, but they just lied and lied and lied. So then all of a sudden the media comes out and says Joe Biden's career is over. Joe Biden has dementia. It's clear in this debate. The debate was no worse than any other time he's done public speaking in the last 4 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But they lied for him, and people said, I have to believe this lie because I've been told to. And then as soon as they said it's okay to say the truth, his career ended. And it was such a weird moment where it's like, that's how controlled people are. And then they went from that to everybody hated Kamala Harris back then, 36% amongst Democrats approval rating. Like, again, most distrusted, unlike VP in American history, and now she is competing against Donald Trump, who's loved by the people who love him.
Right.
It's because they're told to. They're told to like her, and they're just in that mind trap.
Yeah.
And they're also convinced that they voted for her. They're convinced that they chose her.
Yeah.
At the DNC. Yeah.
You didn't
0 votes.
Yeah.
That's so
funny.
Yeah.
That is
because I mean the way it's set up now is I was already on me. It's like, they're going for the black people, right? They want the black vote. But if you're a white person and you go against the lady that wants the black vote, now you're racist.
Yeah.
If you don't support the black lady that's for the black people, why not?
White people just need to stop feling guilty every time that thing is thrown at them. I mean, if you're that worried about being called racist, I don't know, man. Grow some balls, I guess.
Yeah, it's spineless.
It's insane. I don't know.
Spineless. Yeah. I mean, that's like somebody. Yeah. Oh, y'all not black. Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, how short that conversation was. That was cool. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's.
It's like, oh, really? I hadn't noticed before.
Yeah. Right. It's the dumbest thing in the world. But we learned that at an early age. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast, where it was helpful for me to see my father treated in a certain way. It wasn't abundant, but I've seen scenarios. I remember specifically, I was coming home from a travel soccer game, and he was driving me going in the parking lot, and he was about to pull out, and a guy was driving. He stopped, and so my father just kept going around the pump, and the guy was, had his window down, trying to get my father's attention, and my father, in earnest, was like, "Oh," he turned the music down and rolled his window. Like, "Hey, I'm sorry, what'd you say?" And the guy said, "Go F your mother," and called him a nigger. And then my father said, "Oh," because my father thought he was trying to get his attention. And my father said, "Oh, you're an idiot." He rolled his window up and got out and pumped his gas. It's like, and so this idea of always dancing for people who want you to dance, it's like, that's only what slaves do. Right. The only reason they're calling you that or whatever is because they want you to dance, and they want you to probably feel as angry as they are. And that mentality exists within the umbrella of a very specific ideology in our country today. I'm not saying you're only a leftist and you're a hateful person. I'm just saying that in order to be a gung-ho leftist, you have to have inherent hatred.
Yeah. You do.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to have inherent hatred. Okay, let's end with this. Let me ask you about this. This one, I think I've never been so on the fence of.
Okay.
The Mandela effect.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Okay, so this one's interesting because yes, I get being on the fence about it. I don't buy into it the way other people do. As someone who studies conspiracies all the time, I think that there's a set of unique lies that are being pushed on the American public with this whole concept, and one of them is just the idea of many worlds. And if you go back into the idea of many worlds, it basically comes from this concept that I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the names right now because I have my notes in front of me. But what is it called? Yeah, multiverse, many worlds. Well, they're both different a little bit, but like, what's it called? Like creation science is not the word, but there's a word for it, which is like the science is basically determined that the amount of things that had to happen in order for life to be possible on Earth are so minute. Yeah, there's another word for it. It's like Goldilocks principle is one thing that they call it, which is like, the degree of the Earth is just right, and the distance from the sun, and the size of the moon, and the size of the sun, and the depth of the ocean, and all these principles. Like, I read a whole book by Eric Metaxas breaking this down in scientific terms, and it's so impossible to believe that it happened by chance that they started coming up with, well, there has to be a creator. This is what like mainstream science like 60, 70 years ago started having to realize is like, even with all of our belief in evolutionary theory and Big Bang and all this stuff, what we're realizing is none of this could have possibly come about without a creator. So one guy says, well, I reject that because God doesn't exist. And that was his whole reasoning. So he came up with a theory that if enough universes existed where every single instance of everything ever happened, it's an infinite amount, that one of those universes would have life.
It's not just Lawrence Krauss, is it?
No, I don't remember his name. I'm going off of something I haven't looked into in a long time, so the names are not going to be there for me. Okay. Anyway, so that theory comes out, and Schrodinger does this whole thing to make fun of it, and he basically make fun of their data. It's like, well, if I put a cat in a box, is it both dead and alive? And this whole thing. So then instead of people getting that Schrodinger was joking, they went, oh, see, this is proof that if you put a cat in a box, it's both dead and alive, because both possibilities are equal. And until you look at them, until you observe it, you don't know which one's real. So this whole thing spins out from Schrodinger's joke into now we have a scientific understanding of the multiverse and how every decision spins out into a million possibilities. So to accept the mainstream idea of the Mandela effect, you got to accept multiverse and all this stuff. And I just reject it for a million reasons. Time being weird is a different thing. I could see all kinds of possibilities with time slips and weirdness. But what I came to in my research on the Mandela effect is that it's a combination, like, you're given two theories by the mainstream. You're given one theory that is all of you just have really crappy memory, and that's kind of a psyop in of itself. Don't trust anything you see, right?
That's right.
Don't trust anything you see. If you thought you saw it, you didn't trust the mainstream narrative. And I'm like, that's weird. I don't believe that, but I don't believe multiverse. So what do I think about the Mandela effect? So I started looking at the Fruit of the Loom, because this is the one I was most convinced.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, had the cornucopia, right?
Yeah.
I found out that in the 1970s. The patent for the Fruit of the Loom says the cornucopia. And I found other examples like this where they, like companies, changed their logos and then lied about it. And I think it's a social experiment in a lot of ways. And maybe I'm just crazy here, but like when you look back at the records, you can find that no, actually the cornucopia did exist as part of the fruit of the loom. And all these things that we were told are Mandela effects, which is one of two things. Either God doesn't exist and we live in this multiverse and every possibility is real, or the other one is don't trust anything you see or believe. Those are your only two things that are handed to you. The conspiracy theorists say it's multiverse. The mainstream says you don't trust your memory, believe everything that we say, trust the media. We can, memory hole whatever we want. And if we say the narrative's true tomorrow, it's true. I didn't believe either of those. So then I started finding maybe they are changing things, just gaslighting people. Maybe it's a social experiment.
Well, that's what I leaned towards if ever I wanted to fall on the affirmative of Mandela effect. I'd actually never gone the multiverse route. My thing is, I was always questioning, like, are companies like making a concerted effort to gaslight us?
I believe, I 100% believe that's what it is. At least in part. I think some of it's bad memory. I think some of it's misquotes. Like in Tommy Boy, he says, "Luke, I'm your father." So people watch Tommy Boy and they're repeating the false thing wrong. Mark Hamill did a speech where he said, "Luke, I'm your father." It's not the line in Star Wars, but people have heard it repeated wrong enough. Like there's some of that. But with the fruit of the loom thing, I was like, oh, they are gaslighting us. They're changing their logos and telling you they didn't change them.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a big social experiment, I think.
That's wild. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
This is your last day on Earth, and you want someone to realize that this, though they've been told it's not true, is true. What is the one thing you want this person to know is true?
That Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary. He was fully God and fully man. He died for your sins. There's nothing more important. There's nothing more true. It's the singular truth that drives and guides everything that I do. So as much as there's a lot of fun conspiracies I could go down, maybe that wasn't the answer you're looking for. Like that's the ultimate truth.
That's 100%.
I mean, that's it. I don't mean it to sound like a cop-out answer, but it's just
not.
that is the
and
driving force behind everything.
You know what the psyop is? The psyop is to make us feel like that giving the ultimate truthful answer is a cop-out answer. It's not. It's the only answer that matters. As a matter of fact, every Christmas I do a Christmas conspiracy episode because it was a conspiracy. Paul said that if the dark powers knew that the goal was to kill Jesus, they never would have killed him in the first place.